Welcome back to Daily Flash. I'm Mitch English along with Jessica Riesa, and we love having you here. You know, you might have heard that we're actually headed towards a mental health crisis. You hear it all the time. But what you may not have actually heard is that we're also at the beginning of a mental health renaissance. Here to tell us exactly what that means is Cassie Vieten. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and executive director at the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation. Cassie, thank you so much for joining us, but you got to express to us a mental health renaissance. Where does that come from? What's that all about?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, well, you know, the word Renaissance, most of us are familiar with it. It means when a whole society or culture begins to do things in new ways, and there are new inventions that begin to permeate society, and it kind of changes the status quo. And we really are at the beginning of a mental health renaissance. And the reason I say that is there are beginning to emerge so many approaches to fostering mental well-being for the whole populace and to treating mental health issues. You know, so far up until now, there's been tremendous advancement. However, most of us think about mental health as psychotherapy, medication, sometimes institutionalization, and we can go so much further with that. There are actually hundreds of evidence-based approaches to fostering mental well-being that are beginning to find their way into healthcare and society.
Okay, and one of those is what you're really trying to let people in on is that mental health isn't just in our heads, and I'm trying to figure that out. Mental health not in our heads. What does that mean?
Yeah, sometimes I like to say mental health, it's not what you think, which is kind of funny because it's a double thing. But what we're saying here is that we think our mental health is right here, when in fact it is throughout our whole body, our hormones, our gut health, the systems in our brain permeate throughout our entire body, and it's a two-way street between mind and body. So things like exercise, movement, spending time in nature, exposure to hot and cold, exposure to sunshine, all these things are part of our mental health, and it goes even just beyond our bodies into our environment, our relationships, the places we are, the people we are spend time with, our work. And so we really need to think of mental health as a much more holistic thing than just being stuck right here.
Okay. All right. You know, we talk about, how we can figure all those out. And the only way we can understand it is if we actually know really what the explanation is between exercise and mental health. Can you explain some of that to us?
Yeah, so the John W. Brick Mental Health Foundation, where I'm the executive director, has just done a comprehensive review of the last 3 decades of research looking at the link between exercise and mental health. And most people know intuitively, hey, I feel better after I go on a run or I work out. But there's actually science now backing up that movement is one of the key factors in our mental health.
Yeah.
And we go as far as to say that if somebody presents with depression, they should be prescribed exercise. That's how strong the evidence is. It doesn't just mean telling them, hey, you should get more exercise. We think it's almost like physical therapy. You should be prescribed someone to work with you to help you get more body movement over the first 3 or 6 months until you build it up into being a habit.
You know, you imagine like when you're a kid, you're always moving around, you're running around. We're hearing research that goes along with what you're saying is as you get older, that's actually when you need to be even more active because it keeps the brain going. So I can totally understand that. But how do we get to that point? How are we building our mental well-being skills so that we are having a mind-body approach that's very healthy?
Yeah, sometimes I like to call it the ecosystem of mental health, that there are these interlocking elements in our lives that we can work with that depend on each other. And some of them I've already mentioned: exercise, nutrition, mind-body practices, spending time outdoors in nature with animals, finding a sense of meaning and purpose or being of service, making a contribution, spirituality for many people. So all of these things and a few more, you can go to the johnwbrickfoundation.org website and build your own ecosystem of mental well-being.
Oh, I like that.
That addresses all these different elements. And obviously we can't do all of this every single day, but if you include elements of your ecosystem, a couple each day throughout your week, you'll have this sort of well-rounded approach to your mental well-being, hopefully not landing you later in crisis.
Right. All righty, you know, so basically saying get out and walk and do something. Feel bad. I feel like I should have been standing for this whole interview, or at least on like one of those treadmills. You got motivated. You got to have that health, and not only your mind but your whole body. Thank you so much, Cassie, for joining us. And again, if you want more information, you can check out the JohnWBrickFoundation.org. Very, very interesting, cool stuff there, isn't it? Yeah.